This episode is brought to you by Home Plate Peanut Butter. If you're a fan of peanut butter like me, you're going to love Home Plate Peanut Butter. It's all natural, zero preservatives, no high fructose corn syrup, no hydrogenated oils, non-GMO, gluten-free, and it tastes amazing. So if you want all the wholesome benefits of peanut butter like me and not all the junk, then go to homeplatepb.com. That's homeplatepb.com and give it a try. Folks, it comes in 3 amazing flavors: crunchy, honey, and my favorite, good old creamy. There's no goopy oil layer, no chalky texture, just wholesome, all natural, great tasting peanut butter. Go to homeplatepb.com. That's homeplatepb.com. All right. Well, my name is Michael Alden, and we are here at another edition of the Alden Report. We are here in Blue Vase Studios. Folks, I always say I'm not going to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm super excited for my next guest. I actually heard him on one of my favorite programs of all time, The Howard Stern Show. My next guest, his name is Tom Patterson. He's the founder, creator, and CEO of a company called Tommy John. And the interesting thing about Tommy John is he's really kind of changed the way men think about undergarments. Yes, underwear, t-shirts, socks, and he also has some other things that he's coming out with, and he's got a really, really amazing story. He started the company, I believe, in what I like to call the worst economy in the history of the world, I believe in 2009, and he's taken the company to a multi-million-dollar company, to one of the fastest-growing men's underwear type companies in the world. I'm really, really excited to have him, and the information he's going to share, folks, is real stuff. I heard a little bit about it. He's got some great stories, so please help me welcome Tom Patterson. Tom, thanks for being my guest.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be on the show.
So we give everyone the same list of questions. Did you get the questions?
I did. Thank you.
Wonderful. So what we'll do is we'll kind of, I'll ask you these questions, and then we'll just kind of, I'll feel out some of the other things. I do have some other questions I do want to ask you because I'm excited about. By the way, I'm wearing your undershirt and underwear right now, and I did. Again, I'm not saying this just because you're on. But yep. I do love them both. So you've obviously figured something out and created a great product. So it's really, really good stuff.
Thanks. I'm glad you're so comfortable that you're doing the interview only in your underwear and undershirt today.
Did you see that? I posted that on Instagram. Yeah. In socks, though. I do. I didn't. I will be honest with you. I didn't get your socks, but I do have Robert Graham socks on too. So I'm really, really stylish right now with your t-shirt, your underwear, and the socks. And I'm going to try our socks out next. All right. First question I'd love to ask everybody, especially entrepreneurs like yourself. I know again and we'll kind of hear a little bit more about your story. You've been at it for a while. Tell me, how do you define success, Tom?
Yeah, I think success means different things to different people. I think growing up, I played a lot of sports, super competitive. I was the type of guy, if I was sitting in a car and my mom was driving and we got passed by other cars, I would say, Mom, we're getting beat. So when I think of success, I think it's, setting goals and achieving those goals and setting out a plan to achieve and execute is, that's how I define success. And when I got into this business, I tried to solve a problem that I had personally with my underwear and undershirts and socks. And now by being able to convert guys and hear how they have such a great experience in our product, that means we've succeeded. And I think in order for us to continue to succeed is to just have this never-ending thirst for continuing and improving upon our product and giving the customer a reason to come back and buy more and continue to trust us to give them the best experience with their undergarments.
That makes a lot of sense. I do have the second question, but I want to I'm already going off script. Tell our viewers and our listeners your story, because again, I heard the story. I know your background. I obviously did a little bit of research after we first connected. But tell us the story. How did you get involved in creating men's undergarments?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a kid sewing my own underwear together, in junior high by any means. My background, I went to college at Arizona State, graduated with a business communications degree, and got into sales, corporate transportation sales with a company called Airborne Express, which is now DHL.
Sure.
And really cut my teeth in the hard business-to-business sales background. And then I entered into medical device sales out in Southern California, and wearing a suit and a tie on a daily basis, I was starting to dart my dress shirts and customize my suits so they fit my body more appropriately. And I couldn't find an undershirt that was not designed like a box. They'd shrink, they'd stretch out, they'd turn from a square to an A-frame, they turn yellow really quickly, and it was almost like a Band-Aid business, or at least for the brands that I was buying. And I thought, why doesn't anyone make a better fitting, longer lasting, lighter weight, cooler undershirt to wear? And I just couldn't find anything I liked on the market. Long story short, I bought some fabric at the Garment District in downtown Los Angeles, drew a sketch with my second grade art skills, and took that sketch and the fabric to a tailor at a dry cleaners a couple blocks from where I lived, and had her sew some prototypes together with what I thought would be an undershirt that would solve my problems, never come untucked, not have any excess bunching around my waistline, and stay in place, but not be restrictive and be comfortable to wear. And the concept worked. I made 10 more, sent them out to friends, the type of guys who would give me honest feedback, and they all came back and said they'd like to buy more. So I went up to Los Angeles, found a manufacturer to make 200 shirts, cash only, came back a week later, and from there it ended up building a 2-page PayPal checkout website in April of 2008, and started selling them, and guys coming back and buying more. And my background served me really well because I come from a background of strategic selling. I was trained on how to get to decision makers, and now it was buyers. So instead of selling a medical device, I was now selling men's underwear and undershirts. So my skill set transitioned really well into the category. And I just figured it out along the way. And like you mentioned earlier on this call, in the fall of '08, that's when the financial crisis hit, and the housing crisis, and then the retail recession started. And I read an article that there's no better time to start a company than during a recession. And I just got laid off my medical sales job, and I was at this crossroads. Do I, go back out in the job market, or do I have this life of regret 20 years from now where I'm this coulda, woulda, shoulda guy? I could have done it. I should have. I would have. I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. And I figured the worst case scenario at the end of the day is I lose all my money. I can still go back to medical sales. I liked it. I didn't love it. I was successful in it. It paid the bills. But I just always, growing up, I thought, an idea will come to me someday, whether I'm 28 when it did, or 38 or 48, but I'll use the skills that I acquire working for companies to apply into my business when that day comes. And I just felt that was really the tipping point for me, is getting laid off was kind of the push I needed to commit to doing this full time.
Again, I heard your story a little bit on Howard Stern. He obviously, he talks a lot about your products. He loves them, which is great. And then again, I heard your story a little bit. But what I loved everything you just said, because that your story is very common within the entrepreneur world, but it's not very common in the world in general. In other words, you took a big chance, but I loved how you thought about it, because I started my company right around the same time in 2009, and prior to that, I had a company that didn't, that I don't like to say failed, it just didn't work, but I had the same kind of thought process where if it didn't work, I knew I could recover, and I knew I could, like I said, I wasn't married, I didn't have kids, so I kind of took that chance on the product, and again, it ultimately didn't work, but it led to other things. The other thing I wanted to kind of touch on is what I liked what you said is you started, and then you started with a 2-page website that you probably created yourself, and it wasn't perfect, was it?
No, I think if you wait for perfection, you're going to miss out on the opportunity. And I think what I just wanted to figure out, I'll put this together, right? I had a friend that built the site for $3,000. We did a photo shoot on top of another friend's rooftop outside his window in his apartment in San Diego, and it was so elementary compared to what we're at now, but a lot of companies start that way, and I think in hindsight, had I known the challenges I would be going through to start the company, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I think it was a blessing in disguise, and the stories you hear from a lot of people I thought were successful, or I thought, man, they live a great life, they all started in a very similar way.
Right. Yeah. And again, like you said, it's never. I always tell people the light's not always going to be green. The stars are never going to be aligned. You try and you put your best foot forward. You create the best product you can, and then when I used to sell cars right out of college, and I used to tell people, say, look, every year Ford or Lincoln, when I was selling, they would come out with a new edition of the Lincoln Navigator or the Ford Taurus or whatever it is, because they just got a little bit better each time. And Henry Ford didn't wait until until they had keyless entry. Right.
That's for sure. I mean, that's a great analogy. We certainly didn't either. And but yeah, you know what? It worked, and we figured it out along the way. And I think just a lot of times, just getting started is the hardest part, and it's not as hard as people think it is. If you really want to do something, you figure it out. You just find a way. You figure it out.
That kind of leads me into the next question is, you've been in business since 2008, and a lot of people think it's a long time. I think it's still, even for me, I still kind of almost consider my company in a startup environment, even though we've been in business for 8 years. What has been your biggest professional obstacle to date, and how did you overcome it?
Biggest professional obstacle. I don't know if I look at them as obstacles. I really look at them as opportunities. I think there's a silver lining in every challenge, and there's an opportunity to learn and improve. And I think for me, probably getting laid off my job as a medical device salesman was that point in 2008 where I was at that crossroad, and I was just consuming information, reading stories about other entrepreneurs, watching this show called The Big Idea on MSNBC, where
I saw that article. I love Donnie Deutsch.
Yeah, and that was pre-Shark Tank, and I think a lot of people today watch Shark Tank. That was our version of it in 2008, and I guess I treated that obstacle as an opportunity to pursue something I was passionate about as a full-time job, which was Tommy John, and it comes back to that. I didn't want to have regrets, and I look at that obstacle as really kind of the turning point. And everything I had done up to that point, the previous 6 months, was for this decision. And I was just like, you know what? There's more to gain than to lose here, and I just don't want to wonder. And I think 20 years from now, we'll still be a startup. I still say we're a startup, and I think today, a lot of people, I think entrepreneurs or people who want to be entrepreneurs, are just very impatient. And I was impatient, and I probably still am impatient. But building a brand, building a company, at least one that you want to last and be around for a long time, I believe it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, especially the strong ones that are known for certain things. If you look at the brands I admire, like Nikes and Apple and Under Armours, they weren't built over 8 years. The fact of the matter is they've been around for decades.
Right.
And I think a lot of people think they're these overnight successes, and if you really dig in and understand their story, they're not.
Yeah, I heard someone once said to me, my last overnight success took me 10 years. And in fact, David Spade actually said that on Stern as well, but I had heard that from actually a mentor of mine. He had said that to me. And again, a lot of people, like you said, they don't realize when you think about, I remember when Red Bull hit the market and everybody, went bananas over this stuff. And then, I researched a little bit, and I think they started in the early 80s, or in the early 80s in Austria before anyone knew, what it was. And like you said, it takes a long time. And a lot of people see, the quote success that you're having now, but they don't see the struggle, right?
No, but I think that's really what I was impatient by the means where, the Kleenex, the Red Bull, certain, like they're the Kleenex of Kleenex. I didn't want to be the monster to Red Bull,
right?
Meaning I wanted to be the first Tommy John. I didn't want to be a lookalike. And I think that's one thing that drove me to continue to get into this is I didn't want some other brand to come up with my concept and be who we have become.
Sure.
And I think that's what drove me. And maybe it's that competitive nature where I have this idea. I've seen the success. The odds are against us, but you know what? The odds have been against a lot of other companies. And you find a way to succeed and be successful or get on that path if you really want it.
Hey, I wanted to ask you, as you're talking about the original drawing, and I was reading a little bit about your success in the actual fabric itself and the design itself. How important is intellectual property to your company, Tommy John, as far as patents, trademarks, copyrights, all that stuff? Do you have patents on the designs and the actual fabric itself?
Yeah, great question. So patents in the fashion industry are probably some of the most difficult patents of any industry to get into. That's why, you see a runway show and a high-end brand create something, and then it's in a lot of other stores the next year at a fraction of the price, but it looks the same. So copycats is very common. But What we did is we actually applied for a utility patent because we made the claim that our shirt stays tucked in through movement and stays in place. And it took us 7 years to get a patent. And our patent was registered with the USPTO last August. but it's a utility patent tied to a functionality, not a design patent. So it's a
Sure.
little bit different, but it's something that we felt would be an asset, having IP that would protect the idea that really started the company in 2008. So it's something that we've really just kind of been fighting and battling, and we finally got it approved last August, which was a really exciting milestone for the company.
Yeah, I think it's great. We didn't talk too much before the program, but I'm an attorney by trade, and I tell people that you look at companies like Coca-Cola. I believe their most valuable asset is not necessarily even their formula, because that's easy to knock off now, but it is their trademark. It is the copyright. It's the actual letters themselves. They have their own font, for the Coca-Cola logo, and like you said, it becomes an asset, and it could be at some point down the line one of your most valuable assets.
Exactly. We trademark certain, marketing terms that we use, and there's always it happens more and more where other brands are starting to use the same terminology, and you spend a lot of time and money and research in developing certain ways to describe and market your product. So it's all IP in some way, shape, or form, and I think that's why you see the Nikes and the Coca-Colas enforce that so strongly, because it is such a big part of what's made their brands great.
Exactly. Now, I know you went to college. You talked about it a little bit earlier, but I do like to ask everybody this, because I've had entrepreneurs on that have not gone to college, or some of them have barely got out of high school. But is traditional like higher education important for business success? In other words, post high school.
I think so. I mean, I think education creates opportunities, and the more opportunities you have, the better chance of finding success. And I think the way I looked at it is, if it comes down to two candidates that are equally qualified, the one who has a degree and one who doesn't, typically the one who has the degree is going to get the job. And that's just, I think, the way society looks at it. But I think for me, I financed over half of my college education. I'm still paying off loans.
Right.
I worked 30 hours a week when I was in college, and it really, I think it kept me more focused and allowed me to balance the work and play element of going to a university. And regardless if that's your situation or not, I look at it as a positive thing that really helped me. And I think, education too is, you look back and there's so many things you take for granted by having education, and I think it really helped people today. But I think what you're hearing more and more is, I think a lot of kids think that, oh, Mark Zuckerberg dropped out as a freshman in college, I can do that too. Well, he's one in a billion
Right.
that have been successful. And I think if you really peel behind the layers and want to be an entrepreneur, I think more entrepreneurs today are starting companies without college educations than they have in the past. And I would say that's one of the opportunities of the internet that has allowed people to do that. So I think it's more industry specific.
Sure.
But for mine, I think personally for me, it allowed me to mature, allowed me to meet people from all over the country, and kind of gave me that balance I felt I needed.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. For me, I think it was when I went to college and then ultimately law school. Like you said, it's the maturity factor. It's truly training your brain, really, how to think, how to deal with adversity, how to deal with the discipline, how to deal with deadlines, and like you said, you meet other people, and some of my closest friends. There aren't a lot of them, from undergraduate and then even in law school. They're still great friends today, and they're successful, and it's like you said, it's a new opportunity. I love how you use that. You work that into everything, especially I even wrote it down. Every obstacle is an opportunity. It's a great way to think. Folks, we are on with Tom Patterson, the founder and CEO of TommyJohn.com. He's an innovator. This company has created undergarments for men that have really changed the way you think about undergarments. I'm wearing one of the t-shirts right now. I love it. I'm also wearing the underwear. It just feels great. And I was funny, before I even bought your stuff, Tom, I was talking to my girlfriend about this, and I realized this, I was just thinking about it a couple days ago. A lot of times, I don't like the way anything feels on my skin as far as fabric. It's just maybe a thing that I have, but I do just love the way your stuff feels on my skin. And I don't know if is it what's the name of the fabric? Is it modal? What is it called?
Yeah, micro modal, which is,
Micro modal.
in my opinion, the softest, most comfortable fabric that can touch anyone's skin.
You know what? I
today.
have to agree. It does feel amazing. Again, so we're on with Tom Patterson. If you'd like some more information about Tom Patterson or his products, you can visit TommyJohn.com. Again, great product. I originally heard of Tom Patterson and Tommy John on Howard Stern. Howard Stern, gave you this just amazing endorsement. And I'm going to follow up on this next question with a Howard Stern question. But in your business right now, in the current environment that you're in, that we're all in, I know you're in a lot of retail stores and one of the fastest brands in a lot of these big box retail stores. But in your business, what is the most effective form of marketing for you?
I mean, I would say word of mouth. For us, we have so many customers who come to us saying, I heard from a friend, or I heard from my wife's dad. And I think the exciting thing is, a couple years ago, it was really almost taboo or weird for a guy to talk about underwear with another guy, with his father-in-law, with his brother, or at a dinner table full of strangers. And we hear now guys are just comfortable talking about it in kind of any environment. And I think so that's one way, is just word of mouth. And the second is radio. Radio has worked really well for us. We've been fortunate enough to find some radio hosts who organically found our product and ended up talking about it before we even became a paid advertiser. And I think being able to listen to the problems that they had and their experience finding a solution, Tommy John, that created a more comfortable experience, I think it's very relatable for guys to hear it, versus being forced to look at a package of underwear in a department store with a bunch of people around. I think there's just more of a comfortable experience and a different way to consume information. So what works for us doesn't work for other brands, and what works for them doesn't work for us. So I think you really have to find a channel or a platform that you can optimize. And I would say these are two of the more effective. And the third one would be having distribution at department stores. Great retailers like Nordstrom and Bloomingdale's and Dillard's, where the salespeople can share their product knowledge and explain the differences between our product and other competitors based on what you're looking for. That's been extremely helpful.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so the next question, I do want to follow up, and I'm really excited because you're the first. I've actually, I don't know if you looked at my past, but I've actually been on Stern a little bit with our good friend Riley Martin. It's a long story, but I would tell you that one maybe offline. But what? And I've really wanted to ask someone like yourself, because I've been a huge Howard Stern fan since I probably could listen, so probably 14 or 15 years old. And I've heard a lot of different brands come through there. I more specifically, I start to think about Snapple and kind of what he did for Snapple. But what has been the Howard Stern effect for you? I mean, he started just talking about your brand before, like you said, before you became an advertiser. What happened when he started talking about Tommy John and how great it felt? What happened with your company as far as sales and growth and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, when he talked about it, we had one of our best sales days in history, and he ended up talking about it again. And what ended up happening is we went through about 5 months of inventory in 45 days, and people on social media and calling customer service, saying the CEO should be fired. You guys know nothing about supply chain. Why can't you get your product back in stock? And it's for us, it's one of those moments where we really had to learn and adapt to the environment. And I think had that moment came when we were 2 years old, it would have put us out of business.
Right.
We didn't know what we didn't know, and our business was at a point, and we had scaled to be big enough where we were able to absorb that setback, which I think was a blessing in disguise, because now today it's forced us to become more efficient with our supply chain, shorten our lead time so we can get product back into inventory faster to meet the demand. So it was a great platform for people to learn about our brand in a much broader way, much bigger than we thought it would be. But to be honest, I think the biggest reason it was successful is because Howard was a customer, and he was passionate about it, and there was no strings attached to it. And I think that's why he has such a great following, because if he loves something, he'll tell you. If he doesn't love something, he'll tell you that. And it's kind of a no bullshit mentality, and you always know where you stand. So fortunately, we were on the good side of his decision that's at that point. And I didn't even know he received underwear. An agency we worked with sent underwear to about 20 different personalities, and I found out after a lot of people, and I had people calling, say, "Hey, you're on the Howard Stern show. You need to call in. They have questions about fabric." And I'm thinking, yeah, right. This is a joke. There's a friend of mine that would play a prank like that.
Right. That's
So
that's awesome. I love it.
yes, that's really how it started, and it just really snowballed into a great opportunity and a platform for us just to kind of share, tell guys that underwear has changed since 1992. Your multi packs of tattered heat trapping multi pack days are kind of over, and it's time to upgrade from the flip phone of underwear to the iPhone of underwear. And I think now you understand that Howard is really speaking the truth now that you've tried it.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that this morning, today was the first day I put the T-shirt on, and I've wore the underwear a couple times. What I'm really impressed with, and when you talked about the flip phone to the iPhone, the first thing I thought of when I opened the T-shirt package is I thought of Apple and how they package their iPhone. I mean, the way you package your T-shirts there's a lot of care involved in that, right? I mean, you guys aren't just throwing stuff. I mean, it's meticulously folded. You open it up. There's a card in there from you. The box is beautiful. Everything about it's beautiful. That had to have taken a lot of time and thought to get that right.
Oh, no doubt. I'm glad you mentioned that. I think, look, we're never the cheapest, and we're very upfront about that. And I think if you invest in quality, there's a certain price point that goes along with it, but you don't want to get it in a piece of plastic with, in a cheap box. You really want it to be a great experience. And I think one thing we did, which was really helped us out starting out, is in 2008 when we started, 65% of men's underwear was bought by women. And they looked for three things when they went to a department store. One, they look for a good-looking guy in the packaging.
Right.
Two, they look for a brand that they see everywhere on billboards or in magazines or on advertisements. And three, they would usually buy the brand that their husband's been wearing or buying for the last 15 or 20 years, because guys notoriously don't like to change.
Right.
And we really couldn't do any of those three things being a company starting out. So we did a study, and we could hardly find any women that didn't like Tiffany's jewelry and chocolate. So at the time, we created packaging that incorporated a beautiful blue color and a chocolate brown color with a good-looking guy in the package from a brand that they've never heard of. So visually, we felt that would attract them to our box in retail and at least get them to the product to touch and feel. And we felt we would have a better opportunity of them converting and buying. And we won some packaging awards, and I think that was something that really allowed us to be successful starting out in a really crowded underwear landscape in department stores. Since then, we've rebranded, and our colors have, I guess, grown up. But also now 36% of men's underwear is bought by women. So it's almost decreased 50%. More and more men are taking control of what they buy, from their shirts to their suiting to their shoes. And underwear is one of those categories that's transitioning more to males buying for themselves. So our packaging has changed as well. But starting out, that was definitely one thing that we really spent a lot of time researching.
Yeah, it's just like you said, and we'll go back to when we talked about the evolution of the car and things like that. Things change, you grow up, and things get a little bit better. They're always going to continue to get better. And I didn't see the older packaging, but I love the way it is now, and I'm sure you'll probably find a better way too. But next question, you're again, I read a little bit about you. I know you were a great athlete in high school, and then you went on to college, and you look like you're a fit guy, but as an entrepreneur, running a business, growing a business, scaling a business, dealing with payroll, dealing with inventory, all these different things that we have to deal with as a CEO of a growing company. Stress is a big thing. A lot of people don't like to talk about it, but there's when you talk about studies, there's a lot of research out there that talks about entrepreneurs, CEOs have probably one of the highest incidences of anxiety, depression, and you're starting to see and hear people are talking about it now with suicide. How do you handle stress outside of the Tommy John world?
I mean, I'm not the type of guy that's punching walls or swearing or anything like that. I'm joking, but I think
JD.
Yeah. I mean, some people drink, some people eat food. For me, I go to the gym. Playing sports has always been a big part of my life, and having a physical outlet, I think, allows me to stay balanced. So, since becoming a dad a year and a half ago, that was kind of a tough spot. You're not getting sleep. You're working all day. You don't feel like working out when you get home. Right. So I started doing these. I've been working out at 5:30 in the morning for the last 5 months, and it's you feel terrible. You feel sick to your stomach getting up that early, but when you're done, you feel amazing and you're done for the day. So I think that has been just a great way. And then also just my wife is amazing. She's always there to support me. She works here at the company. She's been working with me since the beginning of the second year. So I think having an outlet for physical and vocal stress reduction is really, really key. And I think everyone has different outlets, but for me, that's something if I don't exercise or work out, I just don't feel that great.
Boy or girl?
Girl.
Nice. I have a 10-year-old little girl, and you're I think you're at the point now, the 1.5 year mark, where their personality is really starting to develop. They can do stuff. They're crawling, they're walking, they're talking, and the first year is really tough. But once you break through that, I think things obviously get change. But as far as sleep is concerned, it gets a little bit better.
I mean, if it weren't for pictures or video, it's all a blur.
Right. Exactly. Next question I like to ask Tom. It's a kind of a fill in the blank. If my company lacks blank, then we will not succeed.
My company lacks blank. I'd say authenticity. It's so hard to be someone you're not. And I think what we've really found is the way we speak, the way we market, the way we create products. It's the company has really been built on personal problems I've found in the market and created a product. And if you listen to a lot of our radio scripts, a lot of the wording is the way I speak, and I'm talking right now, and we're not afraid to talk about wedgies or riding up or adjusting yourself in public. It's a fact of life. Let's call a spade a spade. And I think that's one thing. I think that's why we have been effective is we haven't followed the typical playbook of a men's underwear brand or done the expected thing, having a European soccer player or tennis player be the face of the brand on a billboard in Times Square. We've really tried to make it as relatable as possible, and I think that's just one thing growing up. As I was always at a dinner table with old people and young people, and I was able to relate to both and hold conversations with both. And I think that's really how the brand has been positioned. Is we're not an old guy brand, we're not a young guy brand. Is we want to be a brand for everyone and relate to them in all ways, which I think is really challenging. And the only way you can do it is if you're yourself. So I think authenticity is crucial. I'm always amazed at companies that can be built in an authentic way.
Yeah, I think it's great, especially in this day and age when you talk about authenticity, and I think about Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and I speak here and there, and I just recently spoke at a college class, and one of the things that I try to tell especially these millennials is I don't use the word authenticity, but I say rather than posting images of of what you want people to think your life is like, why don't you start working towards that goal? And I guess be more authentic in your own lifestyle. Then ultimately, you'll get it, and then people will gravitate towards you and to your page and your Instagram and all these other things. And authenticity, I think you're the first person that said that, and I love it. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I really appreciate that one.
Yeah.
We are on with Tom Patterson from TommyJohn.com. If you'd like some more information about Tom Patterson or Tommy John underwear, you can visit TommyJohn.com. He has more than just underwear. He has socks. He has undershirts. He has you do have these kind of like pullovers as well. And again, I love them. It's great stuff. So again, if you'd like some more information, you can visit TommyJohn.com. And if you've never ordered Tommy John, I believe for all new customers, I think I'm right, Tom. For all new customers, they get 15% off of their initial order. So you can take advantage of that by visiting TommyJohn.com. We briefly talked about the Instagram and kind of the younger generation. What advice would you give young people right now in the workforce on how to grow? I know you started your company, I think you said when you were like 28 or so. What advice would you give the millennials or the 20-somethings on how to grow within a business or if maybe even starting a business?
Be patient. I think no task is beneath you, and take advantage of the opportunities you're given. I think starting out, people are so concerned about titles or being promoted within 3 months or 12 months, and they miss the opportunities to learn. And I think for me, the lowest paying job that I learned the most in was my first job out of college. doing corporate transportation sales for DHL, where I would literally go into business buildings and talk to the front desk, and I would get kicked out of buildings for, coming unannounced or not having an appointment. So I had to
Right.
really get creative for, here's my elevator pitch, here's what I'm going to say to get past this, this barrier, or even phone calls, how to speak on the phone and be as effective as possible to get to a decision maker who could affect the outcome of your success. And I think these skills, it's like learning how to type on a keyboard. I think a lot of us take it for granted that we can type 50 or 60 words per minute. But when you see someone that literally has to hit each key one by one, you're like, gosh, I didn't even understand how much of an advantage that is to me versus that person who doesn't know how to type on a keyboard. And these little things are big things at the end of the day. And I think just take it as an opportunity to learn. And if you're just going through the motions, you're probably not in the right job. And I think what I found is I like my jobs and I use them as learning tools. But now, like, there's nothing I'm more passionate about than Tommy John. And I think the people that are truly successful they find some way to find a passion in a career that they love. And maybe 10 years from now, I don't like this anymore, I don't love it, and I move on. But right now, it's all I think about from the moment I get up to the moment I go to bed. So I just be patient. The great things typically don't happen overnight. They take years. What'd you say? Overnight success takes a decade.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I also, I wrote down. I just wrote this down, and I'm a firm believer in what you said. I tell people one of my favorite jobs of all time was working for Chuck E. Cheese's, and then recently, a couple months ago, I actually had Nolan Bushnell on the podcast, the founder of Atari and Chuck E. Cheese's, and I don't. It was, for me, it was somewhat surreal, But like you said, when you were working, was it Airborne or what became DHL? You learn things, and I love again what you talk about, and I talk about this all the time. I actually talk about the differences and how they somewhat overlap between an opportunity and a responsibility. And I think too many people they see a responsibility and don't recognize that it's an opportunity. And what you just said, no task is beneath you, becomes an opportunity. Like you said, you're walking through doors back in the day with Airborne, unannounced, trying to get a meeting, trying to get to the decision maker, probably when you're fresh out of college, probably not really liking it, but really learning how to figure it out. And now here you are today, sitting at the helm of a very successful company with skills that you learned back then, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's really, and treating everyone the same, from the security guy to the bathroom attendant to the secretary to the CEO. Just because you have a different title doesn't mean you're a better person, right, or less human than they are. And I think a lot of that, it goes a long way. And I think that's just one thing I had ingrained by my parents and grandparents is, treat everyone like you want to be treated. And I think that's a lot of people lose sight of that as they grow or become, quote, more important. And it's, I think, having, strong people that, keep you, in shape and don't allow you to forget that is really key.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, at my company, I don't have an org board. I can't stand it. Everybody at my company, from the top level executives all the way down, can pretty much knows how to do certain aspects of the business. Not everybody's perfect at it, but everyone kind of knows how to do the business. And if they need to take out the trash, they take out the trash. That includes me, and that includes my CIO, CFO, or if they need to make copies or whatever it is. I think you're right. I think that's a great way to think about it. I tell the story in my first book about Jamie Foxx. He used to shine shoes back in the day when he was before he was going up on stage and perfecting his comedy routines. And a lot of people, literally were looking down upon him. But now he's this, Oscar-winning he's also won Grammys as well, and he's a huge megastar. And you just never know. Like you said, that security guard today could be the CEO of a multinational corporation tomorrow, and you just don't know. And I think what you said you're right. Too many people look down upon others because of titles and because of the job they're at. But we've all had to start out somewhere, and I love it. I love everything you just said, man. Yeah. All right, so we're getting close to the end. Thanks for spending the time with me. Really appreciate it. This one, again, I like to talk about, and I like to ask this question, especially for a growing company like Tommy John. I think the last thing I read, I don't know how many employees. How many employees do you have now? 20 something or
We're, I think, 50, 51.
50? All right. So the last article I read, I think you said 22. So you've doubled since the last article I read. Can you give our viewers and listeners a secret strategy or business technique that allows you to become and your company more efficient? Now, you talked earlier about inventory and how to manage that, and the reason why I ask about the efficiency thing is I think too many people, and you've probably heard this before, confuse activity with accomplishment, and they're just maybe busy, but they're not able to really accomplish anything. Therefore, they're not as efficient as they should be. What do you do to become more efficient, Tom?
I mean, I'm constantly thinking about that, time hacking, efficiency hacking. How do you get more out of less? I think becoming a dad, running a business, the one thing you don't get back is time, right? So how do you get the most out of every hour, minute, second? It's tough. And I think with the way technology is changing, there's always a new app. There's always something different. And I don't think there's anything traditional or classic about business today, because tomorrow it will be traditional. It's going to be old. It's going to be outdated. But I think within that, there are certain things that never change. And I think, so one thing I've done recently is I was just getting bombarded with emails, getting, 300 to 400 emails a day. So I was trying to go clean them out. And I basically just filed email bankruptcy, where, you archive everything, completely wipe it out, and you declare bankruptcy and start over. But what I also did is I put out an office reminder saying, I'm not going to be answering or responding emails between 9 and 5. And what it's allowed me to do is become more focused and engaged in the meetings I'm in. I'm not checking my phone. I'm not on my desktop. I'm listening. And, a 60-minute meeting can go down to 20 minutes because you're not distracted. And I think when people watch TV today, they have a computer and an iPhone on. You have 3 different devices. So, of course, ADD is going to become a bigger problem, with all these different distractions in your environment. So I think doing that's allowed me to be focused and allowed me to be, more impactful on the team. And also, one thing I heard from a lot of people that started companies is I didn't take a vacation for 5 years.
Right.
And I just thought that's so stupid. Of course, that's why you're burned out. And I looked at it. One thing I've always done is every 6 months is gone somewhere for a week. And it's really hard, and you never completely shut off. You're still checking emails, but just getting out of the craziness of an office for me has allowed me to kind of reset, think differently about things, and just overall look back and be reflective and appreciative and have a different vision coming back. And I think that's one thing that has allowed us to continue to grow quickly is doing that. And it works for me. And as a result, what we have at our company today is we have an open lead policy. So people can take time to unwind, decompress, with proper notice, and people don't abuse it. But we're not going to keep track of your vacation days. If you're here getting your job done, and I think happy employees are good employees, and that's one thing in New York is you hear people working 90 hours a week. Don't get me wrong, we work hard here, but we also want our employees to have an outlet to unwind and shut off.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. The email bankruptcy thing is awesome. I've done that before as well, but I love that what maybe you want to trademark that one. Email bankruptcy is awesome. But the other thing too, I think that what you said, which is real important, and I'm not plugging my new book, but I talked about is my new book about multitasking. A lot of people believe that if you're a great multitasker, you hear this all the time, well, I'm a great multitasker. I can do many things, all at once, and I can do them very, very well. The research actually shows it's the complete opposite. The less is more is actually really the way to go. And I love what you said is if you're focused on the task at hand, you become, back to the original question before, you become more efficient. And a lot of people have a hard time understanding that. And I got to be honest, I have a hard time understanding that sometimes because, we are just so wired in with the cell phones and the laptops and the computers and like you said, and everything else. Sometimes I love the email bankruptcy. You just clean slate, start over, because, it happened to me, it happened to me not on purpose. It just kind of happened. And then I realized, and I was freaked out a little bit. And then I realized, if people need to get a hold of me, the people that are important to me, they'll get a hold of me. You know what I mean? They'll figure it out. Right. I mean, that's kind of what happens.
especially in the auto reply, you have your name, your phone number, your
Right.
address.
Right.
And I think also when I did that, one thing I wanted people to know is like I will be looking at this before 9 or after 5 moving forward.
Right.
And if it's important, just resend it. And that was extremely effective because there was certainty. They knew I was going to get to it at some point versus it going into a black box. Did it go to their spam filter? Did I type something wrong? Am I going to hear back from this guy? So I think that's just one thing. And you know what? Maybe 6 months from now, I evolve that and do something completely different. But it's been effective for me now at the point where our company is based on the number of employees and emails I'm getting each day.
I love it. Folks, again, we've been on with Tom Patterson, the CEO and founder of Tommy John. Again, his company is innovative. He's changing the way men think about undergarments, T-shirts, underwear, socks. He's got pullovers. He's got some other things. It's a great company, great products. Again, if you'd like some more information about Tom Patterson, you can visit TommyJohn.com. Tom, last question for you. You've given us such great information. I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy. If you could leave our viewers and listeners with like one piece of advice, maybe a secret strategy or technique that you've done that maybe someone hasn't even heard of that has allowed you to become successful and allowed you to really get you to where you're at today?
That's a tough one. I mean, there's no secret potion or pill. I think for me, I just found something I'm passionate about, and we figured out a way to be successful in. And I think when you're successful, you want to continue to be successful. And it's not really the ones who thought, the ones that were always against you are the haters. It's the ones who believed in your idea from day one. That's what really drives me to continue to grow and continue to make this a bigger success someday. And I think there's a lot of people that want to be entrepreneurs, but not everyone is wired to be an entrepreneur. But if you are and you want to, there's no better country, in my opinion, in the world to be an entrepreneur than the United States. People move here from all over the world to start businesses, convenience stores, technology companies. And with the age of the internet, there's never been a lower barrier of entry to start an idea or start a concept or product or a company. And, reality TV and social media, I think it just became a huge distraction to people and a time suck for the people who aren't able to kind of balance it. And I think if you are, it's an amazing time regardless of the economy. And if the economy is going into a bad position like 2008, I get excited and I only say that because I think there's a lot of opportunities for people who look at it as an opportunity versus like this devastation. Oh my gosh, this is just horrible. It is, but it isn't at the same time. So it just depends on what your perspective is. But I think when I've kind of looked at it that way, it's like we're so lucky to live in the United States and be in this environment because there's a lot of countries, and I've traveled all over the world. I'm never more grateful when I get back and land on U.S. soil that I'm a U.S. citizen.
I love it. Tom, I want to thank you again for taking the time. Again, this has really been an informative program. We're listening to a gentleman that has taken a company from 0 to 50 plus employees to doing millions of dollars in business to be one of the fastest growing brands in some of the major retailers here in the United States. Again, he's taken the company from 0 and he's doing millions of dollars in revenue. And what I really like about everything Tom has had to say is the stuff he just told us, folks, is real stuff. He's a real guy doing real things, making real money, growing a real business. And again, I feel so fortunate to be able to have you on the show, Tom, and to listen to what you have to say because I don't know, you can't see me here, but I'm feverishly taking notes because for me, it's just a great learning experience to be able to have someone like you, again, that's doing it, continuing to do it. For me, it's almost like it's like my PhD in entrepreneurship. So again, if you'd like some more,
likewise, I feel the same. It's reciprocal. I'm a big fan of what you've done and accomplishing and will continue to do as well.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Again, so we've been on with Tom Patterson. He's the CEO and founder of TommyJohn.com. If you're a guy out there and you want to try something different, you want to feel a little bit different, you want to feel a little bit better, folks, I did it. I'm a believer. I love it, not just because he's on, but he's created a great product. So again, if you'd like some more information, you can go to TommyJohn.com. Again, my name is Michael Alden. This has been another edition of the Alden Report, and we'll see you next time. preceding episode is brought to you by Home Plate Peanut Butter. If you're a fan of peanut butter like me, you're going to love Home Plate Peanut Butter. It's all natural, zero preservatives, no high fructose corn syrup, no hydrogenated oils, non-GMO, gluten-free, and it tastes amazing. So if you want all the wholesome benefits of peanut butter like me, but not all the junk, then go to homeplatepb.com and give it a try. Folks, there's no goopy oil layer. It's not chalky. It's just wholesome, all natural, great tasting peanut butter. It comes in 3 amazing flavors: crunchy, honey, and my favorite, good old creamy. So visit homeplatepb.com. That's homeplatepb.com.